Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the Be the Difference podcast. If you are, I got a huge favor to ask. Go on to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review for us. It helps us immensely with algorithms and growth because we grow completely by word of mouth, organically. That's why there are no ads. Also, feel free to share this content with somebody you think might get value out of it. Last, if you don't know, I also do coaching to help people become the best version of themselves, starting with physical fitness, going all the way through mindset, sales, and leadership. If you're interested in learning more, there's going to be a link in the description of the podcast. You can schedule a time. It's a free assessment. All I'm going to do is have a conversation with you and see if I can even help you. I look forward to speaking to all of you. Continue to enjoy the podcast, and remember to always be the difference. What's up, everybody? It's Greg Burge with Delta Financial, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. Jem Fuller. Jem, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm really good. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on your show.
It is my pleasure, man. I was reading your bio and I was like, this is going to be a fantastic conversation. I'm really excited. This is going to be great.
Cool.
So for those of you that don't know Jem Fuller has lived a colorful global life, from barefoot backpacker to corporate leader, fire dancer and traditional tattooist, a kindergarten teacher to a motorcycle courier, masseuse and reflexology to laborer and travel consultant. Now his time is spent as a leadership coach and international retreat leader, dedicated partner, and father. He is the author of the award-winning book, The Art of the Conscious Communication for Thoughtful Men, and can be seen delivering his TEDx talk on YouTube, which is one of my goals. I want to do a TED Talk. So that is, dude, you have led a colorful life.
Yeah. I've packed it in. Mate, every time someone reads out that short bio, I'm like, oh, wow, that's going on and on. But then I'm like, no, actually, all of those things, I did do all of those things. And it's funny, I'm 51 years old now. I'm just round figures. I reckon I'm halfway. And so I look at the first half of my life and, all of those random chapters at the time where I was just, kind of following my nose around the world. And I look back now and they all make sense in terms of what I do now and how I draw on them. So, yeah, it seemed haphazard at the time. But maybe there's some kind of divine plan. Who knows?
I feel like there is, this kind of reminds me, I've been mentioning this a lot because I just finished the book. I don't know if you've read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer.
Oh, no, but I love that author and I've read his other books. So I definitely, that's going to go on my list for sure.
Dude, you got to read it. So I got to read his first book, The Untethered Soul.
Yes.
I've got to read that. It's on
Yeah.
my list of the next books, one of my next books to read, because dude, the Surrender Experiment is phenomenal.
Okay.
And what you just said, and like the life that you led, and how you're like, hey, it was all kind of disjointed, like when you were doing it, it felt, but it all came together.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how he expresses the things that happened to him in his life.
Right.
And he started realizing that when he had, it was almost like the universe, like divine intervention, like, hey, he had this like inkling to do something, or someone said something that, and it was like more than one time where someone said, you should do this. And he was like, I don't really want to do, but okay. But when he kind of surrendered to that, and he did it and just gave his all, he had this beautiful experience that like had this massive impact, and it took him somewhere where he didn't even realize it was going to take him, that had this further along kind of like a secondary and tertiary effect in his life that ended up taking him where he ended up needing to go.
Yeah.
He didn't even realize it at the time. And so he said, he started realizing this. So he's like, I'm just going to surrender to life. And when life sends me these things, whether I want to do it or not, I'm just going to do it.
Uh-huh.
And that's how the book started. It was this surrender experiment that he called. And
Yeah.
it was just surrendering to life. He was like, if you are present in the moment, life will send you the things that you're supposed to go. And like everyone has in their idea in their mind, their idea that they have what their end state, what they want to accomplish, right? And they have their own perceived notions of the pathway to take it, right? And if you take that, if you just try to drive that pathway and you put on your blinders and you don't pay attention to life, then you're going to miss the signs that are actually going to take you there. It might be a roundabout, might be a detour, but if you
Yeah.
follow that, you're
Yeah.
going to have a much more fulfilling and enriching experience, and
Yeah.
it's going to get you to where you're trying to go probably faster with a much better result.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I love this conversation, man. There's so many analogies that spring to mind when I'm thinking about this. And, essentially what we're talking about is that yes, you are you and you have some agency, or at least we have the idea that we have some agency and responsibility and we can make decisions and we can have goals and visions and strategies to achieve them. And that's all great. That's wonderful. And at the same time, super functional to remember that we are an intrinsic and an inseparable part of a much bigger system,
Mhm,
and a system that we cannot know objectively because we can only perceive it through being human, right? And we are a tiny, tiny part of this much bigger, let's go, quote unquote, the universe, right? So there's this universal kind of energy, life force behind everything that is way bigger than us.
mhm,
So you have these ideas of where you want to go and how you're going to get there. But if you find yourself sailing your ship over the seas of life and then a storm comes, if you become too fixated on the path that you were going to go on and this storm has other ideas, you're going to get smashed.
mhm,
But if you are aware of the storm and go, wow, okay, well, the winds are blowing me this way, life is saying, hey, maybe you should shift your course a little bit, right? If I'm going to go with the winds of the storm and I'm going to adjust my course and harness the power of the flow of the bigger situation,
yeah,
right? I might have to change my ideas of how I was going to get there, but like you say, I'll get there, and maybe even in a more functional, better, faster, um, or colorful way,
yeah,
in a more fruitful way. And yeah, so look, I think, and sometimes people too, they have an idea of a goal and they have an objective and a strategy to achieve it, and they're banging their head against a brick wall, or it's like they're paddling up the stream. And if you look over to the bank, you're not actually getting anywhere. But they're so determined, and like you said, they're blinkered or blind. They've got these blinkers on, and they don't realize that they're out of alignment with the flow.
mhm,
Right? But it takes a moment to actually pause, look around, get a gauge of where life is offering you to go, redirect the course of your boat a little bit, and then go with the flow of the river. And then it's like, woo, now we're going, man. Now I'm actually getting somewhere.
yeah. It's have you read the book The Alchemist?
Oh, yeah, love it. Yeah, long
That's
time ago.
that's the dude. That is it, bro.
Yeah,
That's like the path that he had to take. That Santiago had to take. That is just like when he goes through all of these different things, and it ends up like the treasure was always there from the
yeah,
beginning, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He has this incredible journey, and he learns so much, and the power it's like the power is always within you, right?
yeah,
And life's going to lead you down these pathways in order. I think it's really for like self awareness and self fulfillment,
yeah, yeah,
and it's such a powerful metaphor with that book, and then also with your experiences and like how you went through life in order to get where you are now. And yeah, at the time it was like it's all these random things, but then they tie together so beautifully to be
yeah,
where you are
yeah.
now.
And also, we talk about the metaphor of the hero's journey, and we're all the hero in our own story, or we at least there's the opportunity for us to be that. And we have to hit rock bottom, apparently, to really come out the other side. It's like you have to walk through the depth of the forest and face the demons and the monsters. And it's like those films, the Hobbit films,
Yeah.
where he goes off on the hero's journey. And man, 10 years ago, I had to lose everything. I had to have my midlife crisis. I had to lose my job, my house, my marriage. I had to. And I'm glad I did. It was tough time, rock bottom, sucked, man. It was like horrible. I kept my two boys. I've got two sons,
Mhm.
and kept them through it, went into when we, separated, we went into 50-50, week on, week off. So I've been single parenting week on, week off for the last 10 years. And thankfully, with those two boys were the reason for me to roll up my sleeves and go to work on myself, to really upgrade the software, to sort out my relationship with self and then with life, and create a much better life for myself. And the good news is that we can do that. We can upgrade our relationship with ourself and life. We can change our beliefs. We
Yeah.
can change the way we interact with everything, and we can get better results. So that's a relief to know that you're not hardwired and stuck, if you don't want to be. But yeah, interesting. This journey that we go on through life, and you hit the rock bottom, and then you can get your way back up out of that and create something that you only ever dreamed of. My life now was, back in the previous chapters, I was like, if you had to come to me and said to me 15 years ago, this is what you're going to be doing, this is how much money you're going to be earning, this is how good your relationships are going to be, this is the woman who's going to be in love with you, this is the traveling around the world stuff. If you had said that to me, I'm like, nah, no way, man. So yeah, it's cool, huh?
It's dude, it's phenomenal. And it's when I think about it, when I look at all of it, because I also had like a rock bottom part that kind of changed my life, and it got to me to where I was doing different things and started my journey of self improvement, self development, and that was how I even started podcasting. Like I had never
Right.
done podcasting. Someone was like, I started getting really good at sales, and someone was like, "Dude, why don't you just get on video and start
Uh-huh.
recording this?" And it started off as me just sharing tactics and procedures I was doing
Yep.
in order to be successful in sales and things I was learning, and just my own processes, right? Because I wanted to share it with a lot of sales entrepreneurs and agents within insurance. But
Yep.
over time, what I realized is that this was like a mindset thing. This is more mindset. This is more like getting past yourself. And sales is just as much about self development as it is anything else. Like you have,
Mm,
because
mm.
everything's on you, and you
Yeah.
have to be into self development. You have to improve yourself, and you have to get past a lot of these demons that are going to that stop so many people.
Yeah.
And I feel like that rock bottom is the sign and what you, if you look back and you think about it and you analyze it, there's probably a lot of signs along the way.
Yeah.
You were just so focused on heading into the storm that you
Yeah.
ended up getting to the storm that shit you to rock bottom, that
Yeah.
now it almost forced the decision on you. Like, dude, I don't have an option right now,
Yeah.
right? But there was signs along the way. It's just that so many of us were so ignorant,
Yeah.
and we don't read the signs because we're so focused on the past, and we're so
Yeah.
focused on the future that we're not present within
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, so true, so true. And also, we are, as much as we like to think of ourselves as being open-minded, we are by default very closed-minded, right? We
Yeah.
have our ways of how we think things should be, and how we think reality is, and how life should be, and what it is, and which way we're going. And we are very defensive over that because we identify with our ideology, we identify with our politic, we identify with our religious beliefs. Like, this is who I am, and our sense of identity is super defensive. If
Mhm,
someone challenges your sense of identity, man, you arc up, you get up and you're like, no, no, no. And we defend ourselves.
mhm.
So when someone challenges an idea that you've got, generally speaking, unless we're practicing this open-mindedness thing, generally speaking, we get super defensive and we double down on that stuff, and confirmation bias kicks in, and you can't tell me, I know what's going on, kind of thing, which closes us off to so much opportunity.
It does. It does. And um, I want you to dig in a little bit about that moment in time when you lost everything, when you lost
Mm,
all those things, and how that mindset shift happened. You know, I feel like for most people that I've talked to and that are in the entrepreneur space that have had a lot of success, for the majority, most of them had they hit rock bottom, and they hit
mm.
that really difficult spot that kind of forced action. Um, and I almost want to find, is there a way that we can anticipate it before it happens so that we can prevent like more of a catastrophe, or is that almost necessary? Like, do you think it's
Yeah, I think it's
necessary?
almost necessary. Yeah,
It's almost necessary, yeah, because it's like,
yeah.
can we help people? But and, for those of you that are listening, and you feel like you're at rock bottom. Everyone's version of rock bottom is different, right? So
Oh,
like,
completely. Yeah,
y-
whatever it
y-
is for you,
yeah,
whatever
you,
it is for
you can
you.
be like,
But
oh, rock bottom is just like you have no money in the bank account, like, and that's it, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, I
you're
think
not living on the streets yet.
whatever rock bottom is for you, all it means is that you've got enough leverage on yourself to do the work.
Yeah,
Right? Because you got to go do the work. You want to create your awesome life. You don't just sit back and, well, some people sit back and win Tats Lotto, but most people don't. And the people who win Tats Lotto who don't understand the whole exchange of effort and reward, they end up squandering it all. They lose it all. They spend it all and it's gone.
yeah,
Right.
no, you're absolutely right.
So let's remove the Tats Lotto from the equation. Let's just talk about the average Joe, you and me, right? If you want to create your best life, you got to do the work, And when I say do the work, I don't mean working hard in the wrong direction that's not getting results. I'm talking about doing the work on your relationship with yourself, talking about doing the work on creating those 1% habitual practices that are daily practices that set you up to be the best version of yourself. I'm talking about clever, strategic action, not just dumb, blind, working 20 hours a day doing the wrong thing action. That's not going to get you anywhere. But yeah,
I'll get
you
you
need
burnt
to.
out.
It'll get you burnt out.
You
Yeah, yeah,
burn out real
yeah,
quick.
yeah. It'll get you burnt out. So it's not about the quantity of hours that you do; it's about the quality of the hours that you do. But and you and I both know that personal development, i.e., continually improving your ability to function as a human,
Mhm.
is ultimately necessary.
Yeah, and it taps into your potential, right? And I don't I
Mm,
like that's something that's so just fantastic to think about is the human potential. Like, what is the peak of the human race, and like what we can achieve, right? It's
yeah,
never no one's potential. It's unknown
yeah,
and
yeah.
seemingly unlimited. And there's people
Yeah,
that have accomplished great and wonderful things
yeah,
when it comes to their potential, but what they accomplished anyone else could have if they had done to the same work, if they had gone to the same path, right? It's not
yeah,
like it's not like they had some gift that was only provided to them. And so when you think about like potential and the potential of every single human being, and man, it's doing that work, that self-development work is the key in order to start the unlocking process and start that process down that journey, which with every single step you take, you're pushing out your boundary even further. You're pushing it even further.
yeah,
And that goalpost of what your ultimate potential is gets pushed a little bit further and a little bit
yeah,
further.
yeah, yeah. And, fascinating too with what we're doing as a species in terms of developing AI and technology and all this kind of stuff, which will become hybrid. We're wearing those watches on the outside of our skin, but really it's only one Elon Musk move away from them being embedded in your skin, right? And
Yeah.
so that we have access to all information that's ever been documented, and we have access to it like this. My kids live in a world where they can just ask their device to give them the information they need, and they get it instantly. you
Yeah.
know when I was a kid, my dad would say, go over to the bookshelf and look in the Encyclopedia Britannica and
Encyclopedia.
look it up, right? And you'd look it up alphabetical order, and you're looking at information that was 20 years old anyway. So in terms of human potential, it's not even just, and I believe that our natural organic potential. So let's put AI to the side for a second. Even just our natural organic potential is still largely untapped. I reckon that we've got abilities that we haven't even started to begin to understand yet. I've seen humans do things that science can't explain.
Mhm.
I've seen stuff that science cannot explain with my own eyes, right in front of me. So yeah, it's an exciting conversation, and it's an exciting thing to contemplate. What is possible? What is possible? I mean, if we had a said, even just in terms of our physical ability, if we had gone back 100 years and said, this is how fast humans are going to run the 100-meter sprint, we would have gone, no way, that's not possible.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
you're
it's a
right.
cool conversation.
And you're absolutely right. I was actually just talking to somebody. I was just recording with somebody that he had a curvature in his spine that was
Mm,
causing immense amount of pain. And through spiritual healing,
mm.
he ended up healing that, and now he's 3 inches taller.
Wow. Wow.
And so
Amazing.
he went to, like, India, he went, like, all over the world to start studying spiritual healing because he was just in constant pain, and he was like, "Dude, I'm tired of it." And
Yeah.
he was masking it with alcohol, masking it with pain meds,
Yep.
he got to the point, it's like, "I wanna change," and, he talked to this chiropractor that was, like, saying, "Hey, why?" Because he didn't wanna even get a massage, and he was like, "Don't even," because to the touch, it hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, she was like, "Hey, well, why don't we try to do some spiritual healing that's I don't even touch you." And that started he was like, I trusted her enough that I was like, "I'll try anything."
Yeah.
Started him on this journey. It's like, "Dude, he's 3 inches taller, bro."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are we capable of?
Yeah. It's incredible, man. I remember when I used to be curious about energy
Yeah.
and how thought directs energy. So, for example, if you go into a meditative state and focus on your left hand, it's almost like you can raise the temperature of your left hand by focusing on it, right? We send energy where our thoughts go.
Mhm.
And so then with one of my previous partners, I was really curious about could I send energy to parts of her body? So we'd lie next to each other with our eyes closed on our backs, and I would focus on a part of my body. So say my left forefinger, right? And I would focus all of my attention on my left forefinger until I could feel it kind of buzzing. And then I would imagine that I could superimpose my body into the same physical space as her body. But I'd keep focusing on that finger. So now I'm focusing on her left pointer finger, and I would focus, and she would guess, and she'd go, left pointer finger. And she'd get it right 98% of the time, dude. We ran this experiment over and over and over again. And I'd go from, big toe to left ear to whatever, and she would get it right. Now,
That's
I know scientists will come to me and say, "No, that's bullshit. You were just making it up.
no,
You were tricking."
I believe it. I
It
believe
was
it
happening,
100%.
dude. It was happening. It was happening over and over again. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on that we can't explain yet with science, and I love that because that means that when you talk about potential, you were talking about how exciting it is for humans to move into their potential. There's a whole world of possibility out there that we haven't even been able to comprehend yet.
Yeah. So, have you heard of the Jose Silva meditation method?
No, I haven't.
So Jose Silva was he was in the army and then he got out and he became an electrician. And
Yep.
so he understood electrical flow. And what he
Yep.
knew was that with electrical flow, that if you actually removed resistance, it flowed faster. And
Yep.
so he was like, so basically our brains, and he knew enough about psychology from a lot of the psychological testing he did in the military back this was like back in I think the 50s or something.
Yeah.
And so his kids were like all ADHD. He had like 8 kids or something. I don't know. So he had a bunch of kids, and they're
Yep.
all like ADHD and they were doing terrible in school. So he was like, well, they're not learning probably because they have so much energy and there's so much there. I
Uh-huh.
need to remove the resistance so that their energy can flow better. So he thought about it from like an electrician standpoint. So he
Yep.
started doing meditation with them, and he realized that there was the different states of the brain waves. So
Yep.
there's delta, there's
Yep.
alpha waves, there's theta waves.
Yep.
And so he starts to teach his kids how to get into alpha and how to get
Uh-huh.
into theta while they're awake,
Right.
just through meditation and talking them through. And he just started doing his own research.
Yeah.
Anywho, over time, their grades started to improve, but the more that they did it, what happened was that he was started to question them while they were in alpha state,
Yeah.
and he would teach them things, and he would teach them like all the presidents of the United States, right?
Uh-huh.
All the different all the states, so that they knew all the states in order of when they became a state and what year, right?
Wow. Wow.
And then he would go to ask them the question, and then what happened was something miraculous is like his kids would answer the question before he even asked it. Like as he was thinking of the question, they would answer the question. And so he was like, that's when he started to like, I think I'm teaching them ESP. Now ESP at this time was like in the 70s, it was starting to become a thing. And
Yeah.
so he reaches out to this institute for ESP and he's like, hey, I think I taught my kids ESP. And they're like, no, it's not possible. Either you
Yeah.
have it or you don't. You can't teach it.
Right.
Like it's something that's a gift, right? Not something
Yeah, yeah,
not a talent that you can train.
yeah.
And so, um, he didn't believe it, so he started to teach it to other kids in his town, and
Uh-huh.
it's in Laredo, Texas, in a
Right.
small town, starts teaching, and everyone starts picking it up, and then it starts to
Wow.
become big, and, like, all the adults wanna do this, and he
Yeah.
starts to teach ESP to these people, which then becomes this massive movement, the Jose Silva movement. It's called the Jose Silva mind control method.
Uh-huh.
He wrote a book on it, and he has this whole there's this whole like meditation method that helps teach you how to get to alpha state, and then how when you're in alpha how to get to theta,
Right.
and how to like actually there's all these different methods that you can do while you're there. Like it's called like there's like the three scenes technique where you can see the past, the present, the future, and you see like a past problem where it's presently at, and then a guided future that you want it to be at, and like
Right.
and you can almost see this happen in real life, and like things will start to unfold in your life, right?
Yeah, right.
It's really unique. I started training on it because I heard about it, and I've
Yeah.
just started my journey on meditation. I'm like a month in, right? Because I've never really
Uh-huh.
meditated.
Uh-huh.
I've
Yeah.
I've done a little bit, but I'm just not consistent. My mind just races, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to like teach myself to stay present and like calm and like not have my mind go wild and just
Yeah.
lose myself in thought. And it's actually been very productive for me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, meditation's awesome like that. And it's interesting because I've had a mindfulness meditation dedicated practice for about 10 years now. And clients, I coach leaders in government departments and in private sector and the not-for-profit sector as well. And I work with senior leaders, and I'm introducing mindfulness meditation for them. And to begin with, they're a bit like, oh, no, I don't have time to do that, or that's not important, blah blah blah. And I'm saying, hang on a second, hang on. Do you want to be the best leader you can be? Oh, yes, I do. I do. Okay, great. Oh, and by the way, do you want to be the best partner and parent that you can be? Yeah, I do. 100% I do. Okay, great. So then we are going to talk about you developing and curating the quality of your mind and your ability with your mind. And they go, okay. So I get them in and go, right. So this is part of the training is a mindfulness meditation practice because you're developing the ability of the mind. Everybody has a busy mind.
yeah,
People say to me, I can't meditate. I've got way too busy a mind. It's racing at a million miles an hour. Welcome to being human.
yeah.
We've all got a brain and those neurons are firing nonstop. And it's interesting because rather than trying to stop the thoughts, you can even have your thoughts as an object of your observation.
Yes, like you almost like you're watching like a
You
third
can just, yeah,
party,
like
and you're
that's
just
it. You
watching
can
your
be observing
thoughts.
them. You can
Yeah.
just observe your thoughts as they come and go. They can be an object of your observation.
Mhm,
And it's interesting when we get distracted. So just say you're doing a meditation practice, and in that moment you are trying to focus on your breath.
mhm,
So you're trying to just have all your focus on your inhalation and exhalation. And after two or three breaths, you've forgotten that that's what you're doing and you're thinking about that thing that you're thinking about, right?
mhm.
And then you realize and you remember, you go, oh, that's right. I'm meditating. I got lost in thought. I've got to come back to focusing on my breath. In that moment, when you remember what you're doing and you bring your attention back to focusing on your breath, that's the bicep curl.
Yep,
That's the workout,
yep.
right? That's the mind training. So you get distracted and you remember and you come back to being focused. That's the bicep curl. So when you start to think, okay, well, that's cool. So people say to me, oh, try to meditate. I was like, well, that's when you're meditating, it's just a constant stream of getting distracted and then remembering, getting distracted and then remembering.
Mhm.
But it's good for you.
That's so powerful, and
Yeah.
it's true because, one of an old book, one of my favorites is "And As a Man Thinketh," and
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the concept behind it is just like your mind is a garden. If you leave it untended and you leave it to its own devices, running wild, like, oh, I can't control my mind, it's going to be a wild garden that's going to be
Yeah.
crazy, right? If
Yeah.
you take the time to cultivate it and
Yep.
manage your thoughts, control your thoughts,
Yeah.
empower your mind,
Yeah.
you're going to have a beautiful garden, and your mind's going to be stronger for it.
Yeah, and
It's
that's so
anything else.
important. It's so important because your whole experience of life, everything you experience, you experience in your mind.
Yeah. Through the filter of your mind.
Right. So all the data that you receive through your senses, everything you see, touch, taste, smell, every piece of information that tells you that there's actually a world there that you're a part of,
Mhm.
comes to you through your senses in bits of information. And we take those bits of information and we represent them as a controlled hallucination inside our mind. Right? That's how you experience life. So the quality of your mind matters.
Mhm.
If you've got a wild garden going on there, it's pretty hard to make sense of life. But
Yes.
if you've cultivated a garden that is, if you have intentionally and consciously spent time investing in neural pathways, i.e., thoughts that fire, beliefs, which you can do. You can
Yeah.
choose to have um, unlimiting beliefs or less limiting beliefs than the ones that you had before. So let me give you an example. I used to have a belief that I wasn't good enough. I'm not enough. I don't deserve abundance and happiness and success and love and all of that stuff. I had a belief I wasn't enough. And so then if I started to experience success, I'd have the imposter syndrome. Oh no, surely I don't deserve this. And then I'd sabotage it because I didn't believe I deserved it. But then when I consciously brainwashed myself to believe that I am enough, of course I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm good enough just the way I am. And I do deserve love and abundance and money and wealth and success and all the stuff, right? So I actually went to work on myself and convinced myself that I was enough. And guess what happened? My relationship with life changed.
Yeah.
And I started being open to all of that stuff and creating it. So it's cool that we can actually we can consciously and intentionally look after our garden, the garden of the
Absolutely.
mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's such a powerful message. And for your experience as well, like for somebody that you've done so much, you've had so much experience, you've had some bad experiences,
Mm,
that
mm.
forced change. I'm sure that there's plenty of people listening that can relate in terms of losing everything, losing a job, losing a marriage, losing their home, losing their money, losing time with
Losing
their
loved
kids.
ones, lost my brother, my father, both died within a few months of each other just before that midlife shake up, as
Yeah,
well. And my best friend. And so we're all going to lose people, and that hurts. Losing my sense of self, identity crisis to the point where I had no idea who I was. Back in my younger years, drug addiction and horrible stuff, dark times,
yeah,
and that's life. I mean, not for all of us. We don't all have to, go down the same path, obviously, but we all have our versions of challenge. Pain's inevitable. There's stuff in life that just hurts, but
yeah.
the length of time that we do suffering over that is optional. That's the optional part. The suffering
Yes,
is optional.
yeah. It's in almost all suffering is linked to past experiences that don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
stories we tell
it's the
ourselves. Yeah,
replaying the stories, the replaying of everything that happened and just living in that and letting it perpetuate, and if you allow it, your mind's gonna keep it there. It's good
yeah,
because we're designed in order to, try to keep us out of pain, right? Like,
yeah,
we're trying to keep us away from danger,
yeah,
and but what we almost intrinsically do is the more we think about it, the more we cause it to continue to happen, the more we
yeah,
attract that exact
yeah,
same experience into our life. Those same
yeah,
experiences of pain, of trauma, of loss, of being alone, right?
yeah. We become our own self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And suffering also exists in this gap between expectation and reality.
Mhm.
So I had an expectation that it was going to be like this, and then reality happens and it's not like that. And as long as I hold on to yeah, but it should be like this. Yeah, but it's
Mhm.
not. No, but it should be like that. Yeah, yeah, but it's not. As long as I'm holding on to the should be bit, I'm doing suffering over that
It's
situation.
acceptance, yeah.
It's acceptance,
It's
man.
acceptance for, and when like you said, there's going to be times when you have pain.
Mm.
Accept that that was a painful experience.
Yep.
Accept it, right? It
Yep.
is like you where you are now. This is reality. That is it. There's like
Yeah.
the past is not real. It's no longer a reality. The future is not real. It's a construct of our thoughts, of our mind based off of our past experiences and
Yep.
whatever we assume might happen or what we're trying to avoid from happening. All that exists is now. period. It's always now. And having that acceptance will be more present in the now and appreciate life as it is.
Yeah.
But we're spending so much time not appreciating the now and focusing so much on the past and the future.
Yeah, 100%. And then the funny thing is that when you can become better at being present and focusing on the now, then you improve the quality of the now and your part in it.
Mhm.
You improve your ability because you're more present. So the quality of you in that moment is improved. So then the outcomes, which is in the next moment and the moment after that, when it becomes the present, the outcomes are better. So
Mhm.
the quality of your life, then you start to become this self-fulfilling prophecy in a positive spiral upwards or outwards or expansively,
Yeah,
by practicing being present in the moment.
absolutely. I
Mm.
like where this conversation's going.
That's cool.
This is great. This is great, man. I knew when I was reading your bio that we were going to get into some deep conversations on this, especially based on your experiences, man. So right now um, you are a coach, a retreat leader. Talk a little bit about how everything came together and where you are now and how you lean on those experiences in order to impact others.
Mm. Interesting. One part of it coming together in the 90s when I was wandering around the Indian subcontinent. So I spent a couple of years wandering around India and Pakistan and China and Tibet and Bangladesh and all of this area. And I came across this family who look after a Krishna temple. Now, I'm not religious. I'm quite spiritual, but I'm not religious. But I'm happy for anyone to practice whatever way of life is healthy for them. If it's good for them and they're being nice people, then
Yeah.
rock on, do whatever you want. Anyway, so I met this really gorgeous, lovely family up in the foothills of the Himalaya in northwestern India, and they look after this Krishna temple and have been doing this generationally for thousands of years, father son lineage for thousands of years. And I ended up living with them, and to this day, they're like my second family. So I've known them now since the mid '90s. And when I was first living there with them, I was at the time recovering from a broken heart, and was putting myself back together and spending some time in contemplation and meditation in India, as us young hippies used to do. And anyway, I remember having this feeling that I was going to take people there. It's a really healing place. This particular part of the Himalaya is really healing. And I said to my brother over there, Papu, I'm gonna bring people here. I don't know what it is. It's something about getting people back into nature, up into these amazing mountains, getting them away from their TVs and their computers and their suits and ties. I need to get people here. It's going to be good for them, and I didn't know what that looked like. And he said to me at the time, he's a conservationist and a trekking guide, and he said, "Okay, well then let's take them trekking and let's pick up rubbish in the mountains." Right? So that was our basic idea. I was going to bring people from Australia. I was just going to get them back into nature, and then we were going to trek in the mountains and pick up rubbish. Anyway, fast forward 20 years, and I was studying coaching. I lost my job, and I was going to set up my own coaching practice, and I just had this download moment. And I downloaded the whole thing in 5 minutes, the whole retreat idea. I went, oh my God, wow, it's a leadership retreat. I'm going to take leaders away, and we're going to do self-leadership and leading others, and we're going to do all the content. And then we're going to walk and trek remote, where their phones don't work for 7 days with my Indian Himalayan brothers. And I had this idea, and I went to my accountant and I said, mate, I'm going to do this thing. And he said, well, it sounds there's a fair bit of risk involved because you're off of the beaten track and you're going very intrepid. And so he said, you need to form a company, for logistical reasons, so that you're removed from the risk, etc. You need a proprietary limited company. And I said, okay, how much will that cost? I was broke at the time. And he said, oh, it'll cost you about $1,300. And I said, I don't have $1,300. And he goes, you're serious about this, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'll pay to set up the company. So he spotted me. He said, oh, I'll pay you back. He said, no, I don't want you to pay me back. I want to set up this company for you so you can go and do this because it's your calling, right? So I started doing it in 2013, and we've taken a lot of people up on this amazing program where we go remote for 7 days. After content, the phones don't work, we pick up rubbish, and everyone who's come has had a life-defining experience up in these mountains. So, yeah, that was that part of it.
That sounds so awesome. Like, I wanna go I wanna go do this
Yeah,
retreat.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
amazing.
It's super cool. Where we go, there's no people. It's not like trekking in Nepal to Everest Base Camp where there's just a massive line of thousands of people trekking along the same path to the same place.
Yeah.
No, where we go, there are no people. It's us and the
Wow.
eagles. Occasionally, we'll come across a local shepherd, um, and to get to some of these places, we walk through some very remote, special villages. You feel like you're walking through a National Geographic documentary,
Mm.
and then we get up high where there's no people, and yeah, it's stunning, man. It's beautiful.
I bet you that I can already tell that that's life-changing
Mm.
just by your explanation. I mean, only real time I spent overseas where I was doing any kind of hiking or trekking was when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Uh huh.
And so, when I was deployed, but we did a lot of, like, going through the countryside and going
Yeah.
on going on long hikes. It's it it is kinda like it's life-changing just being in another part of the world and seeing that beauty, and,
Yeah.
even in the midst of, being in a war zone, it's still, like, you can still find beauty amongst.
Yeah. Well, the mountains are so big,
Yeah.
they put everything in perspective. You when you're really in the heart of the Himalaya,
Mhm,
the mountains are just so indescribably massive that all of your problems just seem so small. I
mhm,
mean, obviously different when you're deployed and you're in the middle of a war. That's a different story. But and it's interesting too geographically. I've spent time obviously up in those Indian Himalaya. I've spent a lot of time in Nepal, and also I've spent a fair bit of time up in the top north end of Pakistan, in those mountains where the Himalaya and the Hindu Kush and the Pamir mountains all collide, and it's absolutely stunning. It's the highest concentration of glaciers in the world, and the soil is so rich because it's been pushed up from the crust. Yeah, as the tectonic plates are pushed up into these mountains. So anywhere where there's a little flat patch, the growth of vegetables and fruit and everything, it's just prolific. It's beautiful, and it's very green there. And then when I was there a long time ago, I was right on the border of Afghanistan, and this was in 1998, and I trekked up with this English fella, and we wanted to get up to the pass, the mountain pass, and look down into Afghanistan. And we got up to this mountain pass and looked down, and it was amazing the topographical and geographical difference. So on the Pakistan side, there was a lot of greenery down in the valleys, and then over on the Afghanistan side, it was really dry. And I don't know what it was like where you were, in terms of how arid or dry it was, but I noticed that difference. And we were sitting up there smoking a joint, looking around, and this guy, and he would have been Mujahideen or something. He came up on a horse, and he was carrying I don't know whether it was a Kalishnikov or something, but he came up on this horse in the middle of nowhere up on this mountain pass, and he looks at us and he points at us and kind of with his hand gestures like, what are you doing? And we're just like, oh dude, we're just smoking a joint and having a look, blah blah blah. And with his gun, he pointed at us with his gun, and then he pointed back down the mountain where we'd come from, like, you need to get out of here. And we're like, okay, no worries, man. We're going. So we walked back down the mountain again, back down to the village.
He's like, "Yo, this is our mountain. This is
Yeah, you don't want to be up here, boys. You
yeah,
do
this
not
is
want
the
to be up
wrong
here.
place, brother." I like it. That's awesome, man. That's a good story. That's a good story.
Yeah, yeah,
So, if anyone, so this has been a great conversation, and I feel like we could sit here and probably talk back and forth, you and I, on all of
yeah,
this concepts for hours.
yeah,
In order to be thoughtful with your time and your ability to even come on here, so I appreciate it. If anyone wants to learn more, I know they can check out your book, The Art of Communication for Thoughtful Man.
yeah.
Is there anywhere else if they're looking at, like, if someone listens to this, they're like, I want to be a part of that retreat. Like, I want to do that. I want to go to a far away part of the world, away from connectivity, to have a transcendent experience. How can they connect and learn more about that?
Jump on the website, gemfuller.com. It's all on there. There's a pretty cool clip as well. If you go onto my website and click on the retreats page, you'll see a clip there, a little movie that we've made up in the Himalaya, and you'll see my brother and his wife on there and some of our clients walking around. So everything's on the website. I've got courses, free courses. You can go and do a meditation course. Man, as a gift to your listeners, if anyone wants my introduction to mindfulness course, when you go to the checkout page, put in the coupon code Spring Gift as one word. So Spring Gift, and it'll make the course free for you. You can have it for free and just download it. And there's a meditation course. But yeah, everything's on the website, man. And if people are on social media, I post on Instagram every day, trying to just post stuff that I hope will help people. So if you just want to follow me on Insta, it's Jem Fuller as well.
Jem Fuller. I'm going to go follow you now. Jem, thank you so much for coming on board and having this conversation. This has been fantastic. I really did enjoy this learning and listening to you and listening to your stories and your experiences. This has been enlightening, to say the least. The last question I have for all my guests is you have the opportunity to sit with 3 people, anyone in history that you want to sit with, learn from, have a conversation with, break bread with, that's alive or deceased, anyone. Who would those 3 people be and why?
I'd love to have a day with the Dalai Lama.
Okay. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like to sit with the Dalai Lama and just chew the fat together. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit down and spend some time with Robert Plant, singer from Led Zeppelin,
That's
just
a
because
good one.
he was a hero and a hero of mine, and that'd be fun. Who else? Maybe Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh,
That'd
that's a
be
good one.
that'd be nice to sit with him and just the two of us, and the version of him now, if I could somehow
If
magically sit
he
with him.
knew, how about this? If he knew everything, if he could like download everything in all history to current and he knew
Yeah,
everything,
yeah,
and then you had that conversation, what would that
yeah,
conversation be like?
yeah. It'd be cool, huh?
Yeah. That's fun. I love that. That's great.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Jem, for coming on board. This has been fantastic. For those of you watching, do me a favor, share this content with other people. They've got to hear Jem's story. They got to check out his website, look into some mindful meditation. That is a great offer that Jem's offering. Go take advantage of it. All right. And share this content with other people so that they can also take advantage of it and also become more mindful in their lives in order to be more present and be present with their being in the present instead of being focused on the past or the future that's holding them back. Take 60 seconds to share his content with somebody, rate, review, subscribe, but it means the world to Gemini. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.